Hey everybody, we're going to start here in about a minute or two. I want to jump on here real fast, let you know to get your popcorn ready, get your favorite drink ready, and get in your favorite seat because we have something in store for you tonight that will be a treat. Hey, share this video real fast with your friends. Let them know to jump on, watch these interviews. It's going to be a blast. Okay, everybody, it's time to get started with our interviews for tonight, and I want to say thank you for joining us. Hey, we're about to interview two guys that are out of this world dads, out of this world husbands, and overall just out of this world men. And guys, I hope you can enjoy this. Ladies, I know you'll appreciate this. And so let's get started with tonight's interview people, starting with David Sykes and Brian Johnson. And so, guys, I want to go ahead and get started with the first question. There's two questions I want to ask you both. And let's start with David answering this first question. And then, Brian, you'll answer the same question after him. But, guys, I want to know what are two life principles that you have learned in regards to being a man, a husband, and a father? What are a couple life principles that you live your life by? Go ahead, David.
Well, Ethan, first of all, thanks for having me on here. And second of all, Brian, don't copy off my answers here, okay?
Don't steal mine.
I did some just thinking about this. I think that you have to be selfless. I think that you got to give up self for the betterment of your family, for your wife and for your kids. I think that the moment that we get married, we give up a little bit there of ourselves for our wives, and then the moment you have kids and you hold your kids in your arm, everything else just becomes smaller. And I think the second thing is to be the spiritual leader of our home. And it wasn't until I took that role on in the right way that I truly believe that our family dynamic took off, and we became stronger as a family, because I believe that God designed it that way. We need a strong wife. We need a wife who could push us and who is vocal, and I have that, and I'm thankful for that. But I think that as husbands, we have to take the right place and be the spiritual leaders of our home.
I think David really hit on a really strong point there as far as being a man and a husband. It has to do with the woman that you choose. Having a good wife makes our role as men easier. And we've been blessed. We've all been blessed with great women of God that have allowed us to step into that role and be that man. But I think as far as being a man and being a husband, being a father, one of the words that really sets in me is consistency. If I'm consistent with the discipline with my children, if I'm consistent with my attitude with my wife and my demeanor with my wife, she doesn't have to worry about who's going to walk through the door from work. She doesn't have to worry about the attitude when I wake up in the morning, because I'm always consistent. I'm the same man always. And the decisions that I'm going to make when it comes to our family, I'm consistent, because I trust God and I seek God before we make those decisions. Because I've been blessed with a godly woman, I seek her counsel. And I believe that is, for me, that has been one of the greatest things to learn as a man, to learn to be a father, to learn to be a husband, is to be consistent in who I am.
Bryan, is there books or podcasts that you listen to? Do you talk to other men? How do you stay consistent, like you mentioned?
And I'm going to go back from younger. My dad passed away when I was 13. So to have that role model, to have the man to look up to mentor me, I didn't really have as a teenage boy. I was blessed enough that my mom said, hey, you need to find these men. Find men that you can look up to, that can be your role model. And she put me in places with church and allowed me to have those men to be in my life. And so I think to be a man and to learn to be a man, you have to have other men in your life that you can look up to, that you can pattern your life after. But I've read a lot of books, and right after my wife and I got married, my mother-in-law bought me a book for Christmas, and I thought, you don't know me because I don't read a whole lot. But I finally picked up the book, and it was Wild at Heart by John Eldredge. And the book really changed my life. It changed my outlook on a lot of things. And I've read several of John Eldredge's books. Great author. He writes to men. They kind of draw you in. The books draw you in. And I've had different devotion books. I'm reading one right now by Steve Farrar. And I can find the name of it, Point Man, I believe. But mostly devotions and just different books that I have gotten that have really changed and opened up my mind and eyes. Sorry, I'm gonna go on for a second. Amberly and I got a book. It was What Every Woman Wants in a Man, and when you turn it over, it says What Every Man Wants in a Woman. And I believe it was John Hagee. I don't remember now who wrote it, but the author was the husband, and the wife wrote the other half. And reading that, he talks about what women want, and then allows you to open up your mind as a man to what a woman actually thinks, because he got the insight from his wife and allowed it to share. That revolutionized our marriage. That changed my perception on how I looked at our marriage. I recommend those books highly.
This David,
Amen.
is there any books, podcasts, men? How do you stay in tune with who you believe God wants you to be as a man?
I would say a lot like Bryan said, all three. The way that my brain works is I will tend to kind of burn out on one thing. And one summer, I remember reading about 5 books. Now, when I say read, I tend to use audiobooks. So don't think of yourself as less of a man if you have to put your AirPods in or earbuds in and listen to a book, because you're still getting that information. Right. But that is definitely something that, and I kind of got where I was like, I need something else. So I kind of switched to podcast. I love sitting in the car or when I'm out on a run or something, just putting in and listening to a podcast or something. And I feel like as men, we have to strive to continue to pull from different things, because everybody has different perspectives on things. Yes. And it's important that we are in odds so that we can take, what we need. Kind of like what Bryan said, my parents got divorced when I was younger. So I lived with my mom. My dad was a long ways away. I didn't really have a male figure to look up to for a long time until I moved back in with my dad and my grandpa. My grandpa was a very strong man of God, and I strive to be like him every day that I can. But I would definitely say that podcast and reading, devotions are great. And what Bryan said about Wild at Heart, to be honest, I had never read it until I went to a Band of Brothers boot camp, and the whole camp is based on that book. And the readings from it, the teachings from it are from that, and it changed my life. It changed our marriage. It helped me to place myself as the spiritual leader of the home, and to be stronger about being a man of God, basically, and taking that rightful spot, because sometimes I mean, it's a confidence. You have to have that confidence, and God gives you that confidence to place you there. And,
Wow.
and I'm telling you that book will change your life if you will sit down and just absorb what he's reading, because he does a great job of laying it out there and placing it, and takes away what the world thinks a man should be. Because today, in today's society, we can't look to the world to figure out what it is to be a man. We have to look to God, because God lays it out for us.
Yes.
That's good. Well,
Can I throw something else in there, Ethan?
yes, sir.
As the spiritual head of our home and as the leader, I think one of the most important jobs that we have, yes, to be a husband, absolutely first, but to raise our children in a godly manner.
Mm-hmm.
And unless we are a godly man we have to be that role model for our children. We have to set our children up for
Amen.
to be godly, because of everything, like David said, everything that the world is throwing at men and children these days. We have to be that role model. We have to be that reason, that voice of reason, that pointing to God as a man. And what you're doing here today is so important because of our children. We have to be that voice for the next generation.
Amen.
David and I both have said we didn't have that, but we were blessed enough to be pointed in the direction of a godly man. I want to encourage every man, get a hold of God and be that godly man. If you don't have children, mentor another child. Find someone who was in the same position that we were in and teach them, point them to God. It is so important for the next generation. We have to do that as men.
Thank you, David and Brian, for your wisdom. And guys, thank you for your humor. We love you very much. Hey, we're going to go ahead and continue with these video interviews. And the next person that we're going to interview, her name is Tori. And guys, she worked at the most magical place on earth. And no, you may be confused with the quarantine that you've been in. It's not your kitchen, okay? The most magical place on earth, you should know this because you hear it everywhere, is Disney. This person worked at Disney. So let's interview her and see what it was like to work there. All right, Tori. So my first question for you is, how did you become an intern for Disney?
I applied for what they call the Disney College Program. You have to either be currently enrolled in college or have just finished college.
When were you an intern?
I was for their fall 2012 program. I was there from August 20th to January 4th.
Okay. Did you do Disney World or Disneyland?
Disney World.
Okay. Is that the better one or is Disneyland the better one?
I've never actually been to Disneyland, so I'm not sure. It's on my bucket list because it's the original. So maybe one day I'll get to go see it.
What did a typical day look like from the moment that you woke up, where you woke up at, and to the moment that you went back to sleep? What did your day look like as a Disney intern?
Well, they have housing for the college program students. They're apartments. They take rent out of your check every week. All your utilities and stuff are included. It's gated. It has security, so it's completely safe. Wake up in my apartment. I had 5 other roommates. I would get ready for work. I would either drive to work in my car or I would take the bus to work. The bus system was horrible. I don't advise ever taking the bus if you ever do the college program. But I would get to work. I worked at Animal Kingdom. I did outdoor food. So like the popcorn, the Mickey bars, the pretzels, all that kind of fun stuff. I would get to my station and I would have to load up our drink carts. So I would have to load up all the drink carts, which is probably about 20 cases of everything, and put ice in everything. And then we'd have to roll out to our location and I would be there. Normal shifts for me were 6, 7, 8 hours.
Okay.
So I would get couple breaks and a lunch break, and then I would have to pack. If I was closing the station, I would have to unload the stuff and take inventory at the end of the day of what was left and return it back to our stock area. It was a pretty neat process.
Who was your favorite character at Disney World?
That one's a hard one because I have several, but I think my top favorite would be Tinkerbell.
Okay. Do you have any stories or anything you like to tell people when you talk about your time at Disney? Just anything that stood out to you the most?
I got to meet a lot of different people from a lot of different places, so that was really neat. I met a lady from Bermuda one time.
Oh, wow.
And she actually gave me a fairy token.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a Bermuda fairy token. So that was pretty cool. But I guess meeting the different people from all over the world was probably the coolest part.
Our church on Monday night is going to do a Disney trivia, and we'd love for you to jump on and play along.
I will have to do that. I'm always down for Disney trivia.
Oh, yes. Tori, thank you for sharing with us. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to share with us what it was like to work at Disney. Guys, we're going to continue our interviews. This next person is Hillary, and she may be in the toughest part of her life up to this point. And the reason I say that is because she's a PA actively working in a hospital with this coronavirus the way that it is. Just this past Sunday, there were 26 cases at her hospital. And yes, she works in the trauma unit in Wichita, Kansas at Wesley Hospital. And guys, I hope you enjoy this interview with Hillary. Hey, let's go ahead and get started, Hillary. My first question for you is what made you want to become a healthcare worker?
So I think that being in healthcare has always been a desire of mine ever since I was little bitty. When I'm the oldest of 5 kids, my little sister is 5 years younger than me. And when she was born, my mom got really sick in the middle of the night, and she wasn't out for any of us. I woke up and ended up taking care of her, throughout the night and getting her okay until my dad could get her to the hospital. And since then, I've always said, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be something in healthcare. And then I just kind of started praying about it, and I felt like that's where God had called me. And then as I looked into it, physician assistant is what, I stumbled across. And, God really has laid out all my steps to get there, either it be through opportunity or, finances, and even the knowledge just to get to this point. But I think that it's been a calling since I was little.
Okay, so my next question is, what does a typical day look like for you in the medical field? And here's the thing, I want to know what a typical day looked like before COVID-19 and then after COVID-19 came on the scene, if you don't mind sharing with us.
Yeah, of course. So I'm actually a trauma PA at Wesley. And kind of what that entails is I work a 12-hour shift, so I work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I show up, I'll get handoff from the nighttime PAs, and then I'll go see all my patients in the morning, and then we'll have rounds about mid-morning, so like 10. And that's when I sit down with the physicians and kind of say, hey, here's my plan, here's what's going on with the patients, and then we'll go see the patients together. After that, we kind of have the afternoon to place orders, to perform procedures, to see traumas. So we respond to every trauma that comes into the hospital, so we'll get down and see them. And the kind of the afternoon is just like work at my own pace and just make sure that, if trauma comes in or procedures need to be done, I get that stuff done. With COVID, it's a little bit different because our hospital has changed a lot of the policies. So now, instead of just, kind of casually coming in with my coffee through the trauma bay doors, I have to go all the way around the hospital, go through the main entrance. They make us do temperature checks, so they have to make sure we don't have a fever. And then we get a level 1 surgical mask. And we have to wear that every time we're in interaction with other people or patients. So basically, anytime I'm out of the office, I have to put that thing on. One, it stinks because I can't breathe through it by any means. Like, I feel like I'm suffocating. And 2, I do really well in the mornings. Like, I'm like, we're in a pandemic. Like, I got to put my mask on and protect myself. And then the afternoon, I leave my office without it and get halfway across the hospital. I'm like, I got to go back and get my mask. So there's that. The other thing that's been harder is, like I said, they changed a lot of the protocols. So they had to rearrange our trauma bays, which basically it's like all of our equipment for if I have to do an emergency procedure or, the nurses to put lines in or things like that. Now everything is bagged up and we have no idea where anything is. So we have to ask the nurses, I'm like, hey, where do I find gloves? Or where do I find, personal protective equipment? So they usually have to hunt it down. And then the other thing that's a little different for us is our our intubation. So when someone gets put on a ventilator, we have to always assume they're COVID positive because those patients aren't able to talk to us. And so we have to fully gown up in all of our protective equipment. And everybody has to leave the trauma bay for the intubation, and then we have to go back. It's kind of a big mess. So I would say ultimately everything is just slowed down because we have to take super extra precautions. The other thing that's been difficult, I think, is my hospital doesn't allow any visitors unless someone is dying, and then they can only have 2 visitors for 1 hour, and they only get 1 visit. So you think like, oh, cool, like, you know, I don't have to like stumble around family or whatever, things like that. But it's actually harder because that's part of the satisfaction of my job, is being able to reassure family and kind of communicate what's going on. And now I'm having to do it through the phone, and they can't see the patient, they can't hold their hand, they can't, you know, actually process what's going on because they're not there to see it. So that makes things a little bit more difficult for us.
Last question for you, and I know that this time is troubling and that there's several challenges that come with COVID-19, not mentioning all the other sicknesses and illnesses that there is that is in the hospital as well. But is there anything, you know, if possible, is there anything that's been positive through this, maybe with your patients, or maybe, you know, you've noticed something about your fellow employees or something personal? Is there anything positive that you've gotten from COVID-19?
Yeah. So, you know, that it's kind of a hard question to answer because I see the impact of it, you know, being in the hospital. I see like the people dying, or the fear of coworkers saying, oh, I don't want to get it, or I don't want to get it when I'm treating a patient, things like that. But I do think there's some positive things that have come out of it. One, I would say just the solidarity of everybody. So for the majority of the population has really heeded the cautions of, you know, stay at home and wash your hands, don't touch your face, like protect the elderly, don't go around them. I think it's pretty neat that everybody is following that for the most part. The other thing that I've noticed that has been a pretty plus for my job specifically is that our traumas are down. So meaning our census is down. So we don't have as many patients. So this means we're not seeing as many car wrecks or gunshot wounds or assaults, things like that we would see normally during this time would be our busy season, where we're hardly seeing any. So that's a big perk. And then the other thing I've read from fellow PAs, or just like medicine news articles and things like that, is that we're actually seeing a decrease in things like strokes and heart attacks and all that stuff. I don't know if that's people aren't coming in, or if it's, you know, less stress from jobs, because I'm sure we're all stressed being at home and not having a job. But we are seeing a lot less of those things, so that's good. And then the other thing would just be like people rallying behind me. So I've gotten snail mail or letters in the mail from friends who have just written like sweet notes saying, thank you so much for what you're doing. Like, this is so great. And even family who have like provided care packages or surprised me with meals or things like that. It's kind of cool to see the support from everybody.
Well, thank you so much for meeting with us and sharing with us. And we want you to know, as a church, we're praying for you and all other healthcare workers. So thank you very much. Thank you, Hillary, for sharing with us. And we want you to know that we're praying for you. And we want all PAs, we want all nurses, all doctors, all physicians, and any other healthcare worker that I may have not mentioned. We want you all to know that we're praying for you and that we are very, very thankful for you. Guys, we're going to continue our interviews, and I'm about to interview 2 people from here at Landmark Church that you know, and that they are very loving, that they are spiritual leaders here at our church, and that is Gary and Peggy Carter. Brother Gary is actually one of our board members, and so we thank you for his leadership there. And Sister Peggy used to be one of the Sunday school teachers here, and guys, let me tell you, she's an amazing teacher. And they both are great spiritual leaders. Here they are. All right, Brother Gary and Sister Peggy, I have a couple questions for you guys. The first question is, what have you guys been doing during this time of quarantine to stay busy?
Start out with, you know, when the quarantine started, the weather wasn't cooperating a lot, so we were really kind of housebound. So we, of course, just our daily chores around the house. Plus, we played a lot of checkers and dominoes, and we've been doing our daily Bible readings, and just just kind of tried to stay busy. And then once the weather changed, we was able to get out and do a little yard work. And we have a couple of times just got in the vehicle and rode around, staying away from people, just ride the country a little bit.
Right.
Just kind of, we try to observe what the smarter people are telling us to do. Sometimes us as humans want to go our own way, but we're trying to observe that, staying as much as we can, isolated a little bit, and keep that distance and stuff, and just kind of go by the guidelines. Like I say, checkers and dominoes has been our major board games. Then Peggy, she loves to do a word search. She'll pick out a word and see how many words she can make out of it.
Oh.
She's really good at that. So we kind of have a little competition who can get the most words out of a particular word. Just little things. How you time.
I'm going to bring this up. Who's the primary winner in checkers and dominoes?
I have to say Peggy is better than me, although I've won some, but she has won the most.
Okay.
But we enjoy doing
it. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, my second question for you guys is, Sister Peggy, here at the church, you're known to be able to spot out somebody's gift, maybe even before they know what they're good at doing. Can you tell me what that kind of process is like, and kind of when you decide to talk to them, or how those conversations usually go, or whatever you think you want to share about it? Can you share that with us?
I'll give it a try, but I don't know that I actually ever see clearly anyone's gift. I may see a portion of their gift, but I can't say that I've ever seen their gift. But I come from this thought right here on that question, that you hear all of your life about discipling people, all of your Christian life in church. You hear about how we should be making disciples and things.
Yeah.
So I would say that how can you ever, this is my basis, how can you ever make a disciple out of someone if that person's never noticed? Then I'd have to supersede that with this right here. How can you ever develop that person if you never include them? You or me or anyone may see some things in some people, but you probably only have a glimpse, and oftentimes you may not even be correct. But I take it from this standpoint right here of including people and trying to learn their names. We both know as the church has grown, that's pretty close to impossible. But I can't learn everyone's name, and neither can you. But I can learn some, and you can learn some. So it's all about, I think, trying to make people really feel well and really feel included. And this is a scripture that I think about a lot of times. Let me read. It's Ephesians 4:16. From whom the whole body fitly joined together and compacted by that which every joint supplieth, according to the effectual working in the measure of maketh increase of the body unto the edifying of itself in love. And I cannot, you constantly are learning, and I cannot separate my current learning, maybe being corrected, maybe being instructed, maybe being edified, except that I use this quote right here. It came from my Sunday school teacher. You can flow from love when you are loved. And we all know love is that word. So if I don't ever notice anyone I don't ever try to find out one thing about that person, then I'm really not showing love or showing inclusion. And then I got one other scripture in Romans 12:5. So we, being many, are one body in Christ, and everyone members one of another. And lastly, I thought about what order would you put these things in? You know, maybe this is not an exact perfect order, but first of all, you would live the life when you're talking to people about including them or bringing them into some sort of ministry, even if it's indirectly. You'd have to live the life. But secondly, go back to that same word, you have to include them. I've been in churches before that are cliquey, and let me make this perfectly clear, Ethan, that I've never regarded Landmark as being a cliquey church.
That's good.
But I've been in them, though, that are cliquey. And so that is one of the most damaging things. And that's one of the most unspiritual bodies that you'll ever get into when they're cliquey. You may have to be 5 years before they even notice your name. And then to cap all that off, I go back to this story that I read several years ago, and I committed it to memory, that there was a little orphan boy who was adopted. And he was there on Christmas morning, and when it came time to come down from upstairs to downstairs where the Christmas tree and the family was waiting, he walked down and he got down a few steps and he came to a complete stop, and he looked around and his face told the whole story. It was more than he could believe. They beckoned him to come on down. He took a few more steps. He scanned around the tree and around the room, and his eyes fell on a new red shiny bicycle. He then his face was in total amazement. They said, "Johnny, come on down. This bike is for you." And he said, "Is it really for me?" They said, "Yes, it is. It's for you." He waited a minute, and then he said, "Is it really for me?" So I come from this basis right here, that I experienced God's gift. I experienced it. Therefore, I know that you can give them out. Whenever you experience that inclusion and that being noticed and that being loved, it makes all the difference in the world. And so from that basis, that is why I go up and talk to people, and especially when the church was smaller, and try to develop something that I may have seen in them.
We appreciate that wisdom.
I got to show you on a little lighter, humorous side real quick. Can you see these two dominoes?
Checkers.
These checkers, these two checkers. Now, This is a normal checker. This is one normal people play with. This one here, this is for old folks.
Thank you, Brother Gary and Sister Peggy. We appreciate you guys so much, and thank you for taking time out of your day to share with us all that you did. Guys, we're going to continue with our last interview, and I just want to make this statement. Whoever said white men can't jump, they were probably referencing that to my family, okay? Sorry, family. But if they were referencing that to this next guy's family, they would be dead wrong. The guy that I'm about to interview is a former Harlem Globetrotter. And guys, he can't only dunk, he can jump out of the gym, okay? If you were able to watch him in person, you know it was fun to watch him dunk all over the place, posterize everybody in his pathway. Guys, I hope you enjoy this next interview. Help me welcome Tyler Inman. All right, Tyler, so how did you get involved with the Globetrotters?
Well, back in 2014, on my senior year at Southwestern Christian, I got entered into a dunk contest for the NAIA. in Kansas City, and I actually won that dunk contest. The next day, the video was posted on YouTube, and it went viral over the next couple of weeks. And a talent scout got in contact with my coach, sent me an email, and I went up to Atlantic City, and I did had a tryout, and I did really well in the tryout. And then they invited me to training camp a few months later, and yeah, and that's kind of how it started.
Was there a lot of guys at the training camp?
Yeah, the way the Globetrotters is set up, there's like, I want to say 25 to 30 guys, but they were split up into 3 different teams that can, travel around the country at different parts and play different games in different areas. So,
what did a typical day look like for you and your team when you guys were playing in season?
It kind of varied depending on where we were located at the time, but typical wake up time was like maybe around 7 or 8 in the morning, and then we would take a bus for a few hours to whatever city we were playing in at that day. We'd get to a hotel room, check in, and I would usually go out depending on what time it was, and get some lunch, walk around the city, sightsee a little bit, because it was kind of fun just to be in a different place every day. Game time was usually around 7. Sometimes it was 5:30. So we'd get to the gym around like 4:30 to 5. Game time was at like 7. We would get there, get our practice gear on, practice for like an hour on like, crazy shots, different kinds of dunks and ball handling. Get the show, kind of worked out pretty good.
Right.
Then around 6:15, they would open the doors for it's called Magic Pass, where there was like a pre-show kind of thing for the kids to get to meet the Globetrotters, and then they do tricks and shoot on the goals and stuff like that. Then at 7, we would play. Usually take like an hour and 20 minutes to play the game. Then after the game, we'd grab some food and then head back to the hotel. Maybe get in around 10 o'clock. Sometimes they would drive to the next city right after the game. That was on occasions. But then we get up in the morning and just do it all over again. So that was kind of the day.
Did you meet anybody through the Globetrotters, or like maybe some NBA players? Did you meet anybody like that?
Yeah, I met a few NBA players. At the time we played in Oklahoma City, got to meet Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant when they were still playing there. We got to hang out with them for 20, 30 minutes and just talk. It was really interesting getting to, talk to people I thought were like, oh God, that's so cool to,
Right.
meet, but they were just regular guys, just could play basketball at a really, really high level.
Wow.
So we really didn't have that much difference, except their skill level was just way, way, way
Right.
advanced.
Oh, dude, I was your water boy, so I wouldn't say their skill level is too far more advanced than yours. Is there anything that happened while you were a Globetrotter, anything significant that you want to share with everybody?
We were playing in Boston at the Boston Garden during the day, an early game, and then the Clippers and Celtics were playing that night. I got in contact with my old assistant coach, Josh Gamblin, who's best friends with Blake Griffin at the time. Well, he still is, but at the time, Blake was playing for the Clippers. And I asked him if he'd leave us a couple tickets to go to the game. And he did. And so we got to go to the game, but between our game and their game, there was like a 3-hour layover kind of thing. So I was like, I don't want to go back to the hotel. I'm just going to stay in the gym, kind of down in the lower level where the locker rooms are, and just kind of wait it out. We got in contact with some security guards, and they gave us like passes.
Wow.
Basically, we could go wherever we wanted to. We got to sit like on court side, when they were warming up and stuff. The seats weren't all that great when we got there, as opposed to where we were sitting before the game.
Right.
But yeah, we watched the game. We left a little early to go before the game was over, to go down into the tunnel. Got to talk to, almost every player that walked through, and they said hi and whatnot like that. But We got to hang out or talk to Blake for a couple minutes before they had to leave and get on the bus and go somewhere else. But after the game, a couple of us, me and my buddy that had like the pass with me, we walked on the court and we were talking to some guys and stuff. And security guards came and they were like, "You guys aren't supposed to be out here. I'm gonna have to ask you to leave or whatever." And then another security guard came over. And she goes, no, that's okay. That's Ice, man. He can stay out here. So at that point, I was like, I think I kind of made it a little bit. I felt very like, proud of myself at that point.
All right, everybody. Man, I have enjoyed tonight so much with you. We want to let you know that tomorrow night, we're going to be bashing eggs on our heads, okay? And if you want to be a part of that, I know that sounds crazy, but what we're going to do, if you'll hear me out, is we're going to boil, I think it's 4 eggs, and leave 2 eggs fresh, and you're not going to know which one's which. We're going to do this on Zoom, and I believe it's going to be on Facebook Live, but if you want to participate in it, message us, let us know here on the Landmark page, message us, say, hey, I want to be a part of it. We'll invite you to the meeting, and you boil the eggs yourself and have somebody else pick which egg's going to be bashed on your head, because you will never know until it happens which egg you have. So you're either going to be hit in the head with a boiled egg, which isn't the best experience, but you may also get hit in the head with a fresh egg, which is going to be a way worse experience. But hey, we're going to laugh and we're going to have a good time. Guys, and that's tomorrow night at 8 o'clock online. You can watch. You don't have to participate. You can watch, so we hope you'll join us. And on Sunday, we're continuing our sermon series called Asking for a Friend, and services are at 9:15 and 10:55, and the kids' services are at 10:15. Guys, we hope that you have a great day and a great night. God bless.